did send me the link.
What's that?
You did send me the link.
Did I? Okay,
Yeah.
good. Good, I'm not losing my mind.
No, I found it.
Good, okay, good. All right, so we'll get started in a few minutes. If you have music and you want to play that, you're welcome to. So if you look at the chart for the meridian pictures for tonight, you can see liver is a lot through inner leg. So it's similar to kidney. So kidney had run around the same channel. But gallbladder is more side body. So a lot of the work we're doing tonight, we'll get to some liver, excuse me, but we're gonna also do a lot of side body stuff, some side bending and some hip work. Eileen had mentioned, you know, pain in the hips relating to gallbladder. So a lot of the stuff we're gonna be doing will hit those areas. So if you have a block, we're going to use that initially, a yoga block. If you don't have a yoga block, I'll show you what to do as an alternate. So the first thing we're going to do is come into an acupressure point for gallbladder. And they're on the back of your neck. So let's find them together. Bring your hands to the back of your head, right at your hairline, and meet your fingers in the middle. That's also a point there, but the ones that we're particularly going to be targeting are about an inch away from there on either side, and they're often very tender spots. So we're going to be putting the edge of the block right along the hairline, and we're going to try to get the corners of the block to give a little acupressure on either side of the cervical spine. So those points that we just found, we're going to try and put the block there. Now, those of you who don't have a block, you're going to just use your thumbs. So I'll just turn around, put your thumbs on those points, and you'll be holding them with your thumbs instead of using the block. So when you use the block, it's a little, you can just relax into it, not have to press with your fingers. So it's kind of nice. Okay, so have a block behind you, and we're going to come back and lay back onto the block and try to adjust yourself so that the top edge of the block hits the hairline. Okay, so it looks like this. I'm gonna scoop back, and my head hangs off the block a little bit. Now, if that doesn't feel good to let your head hang off the block, I kind of like it because I get deeper into the acupressure. But if you don't like it, put a blanket back there under your head or a pillow, just so you don't feel like you're hanging your head off. I think some of it too depends on how long of a neck and how long of a head we have, if that's comfortable. Okay, so once you have that and your hairline is right there hanging on the block, just settle for a few breaths. And just drop in to that block. Now, if you don't have the block, you're going to let your head fall into the weight of your hands into your thumbs. And I'm going to grab my timers right there. Okay, so just let your head drop into that block. We're going to take about 1 minute, and then we're going to eventually turn the head a little bit. And again, sometimes these are very tender points. Another interesting little anatomical bit of trivia is that there are muscles along here that actually relate to our eyes. So sometimes if you put your fingers there and you rotate your eyes side to side, you can feel the muscles. They're very tiny, fine muscles. You can feel them moving with your eyes. So there's a connection there. So if we have a lot of eye strain, and as we talked about, liver opens into eyes, these points can be really sore. So just a little observation there. Almost a minute. Good. Okay, so now staying where you are, And simply just roll your head a little bit side to side. And if you have your hands instead of a block, you can also just roll your head side to side. Now the next time you roll toward one side, move your head off the side of the block and try to get the point of the block right in that point that was off to one side. So it's about 1 inch away from the center. And let the block corner just kind of sink in there and get that nice acupressure point. Then we're going to hold there for a few breaths. If you just have your hands, you could just roll your head and put a little extra pressure on the one side. Okay, let's go now to the other side. So roll back towards center and then let your head hang off the other side and let that acupressure point be about 1 inch away from center. And you'll find that little tender spot. And let the head hang there again for a few breaths. Allow the full weight of your head to drop. Legs can be bent, or if you wish, you can also extend them out straight. Go ahead and take 2 more breaths where you are. I'm just checking where we're at next. Okay. And then after your second breath, take your time, bring your head back to the center. And then we're going to slowly start to roll off to the side. And we'll come up into a seated position. So sometimes that can be pretty intense with those acupressure points back there, but the more often you do them, it clears that stagnant energy that's in there. Especially if we happen to be one of those people that does this a lot, stick your chin out, crunch the back of your neck. It's like you're cutting off the chi, you're cutting off the blood flow, the flow of energy, the prana, and we get stuckness in there. So good to massage that out. Okay, so we did the back of the neck. Now we're going to do side of the neck, which is a little bit more gallbladder. So go ahead and drop your ear towards your left shoulder, and then we're stretching out the right side of the neck. And then if that's enough like sensation, you'll stay right there. Otherwise, use your hand and just simply drape it. You're not pulling. So this is yin, so no effort, but that extra weight of your arm can add a little bit of extra stretch there. So we're gonna go for 1 minute. Some of these will be shorter holds where we have like more fragile tissue. So the neck, we don't wanna hold too long. If you wanna add to this, you could drape your opposite arm behind your back. And then that adds a little bit of extra stretch in here. Maybe close your eyes and find your breath. Go of all effort in your face, in your jaw. The eyes be soft, even if they're closed, just relax the eyes. Okay, so let's come out of it super slow. First, release that arm behind your back, and then release the other arm, and then slowly bring the head back up. So we feel that sense of fragile tissue in here as we come out of it. And I like to just kind of move around a little bit just to kind of release what we just did. Okay. Let's do the other side. So drop the head to the other side. And then if you want to add that extra sensation, add the arm. And maybe the opposite arm behind your back. And if it is comfortable and feels safe for you, do close the eyes and have that inner focus as you stay here and breathe for 1 minute. So if we look at our gallbladder picture, you can see next time, not now while you're in it, but when you come out, you can see how that meridian runs through the side of the neck. Stay with your breath. And think about softening with every exhale. Okay, let's slowly release. Top arm, back hand, and then just move that head around a little bit. Okay, so there are a lot of poses that will overlap. We could easily do any of the like wide open leg stretches that we did, but I'm trying to give you guys a variety of poses. So although I could repeat some of those, I want to give you some different things. And what we're going to do now is an ankle foot stretch. And I think we might have done this on week 1. The liver meridian is going through the tops of the feet. So we're going to come to sit on your heels. And that already might be enough of a sensation for you. But if you can, you're going to lean back. And you're going to walk your hands back until your knees come off the ground. And this one again can be a little bit intense. I'm going to see if we can do a 2-minute hold here. And again, if you need to, you can keep the knees down. You're still getting maybe a stretch on the tops of the feet, depending on your body. Some of us maybe can eventually come back down to forearms. I'm going to just stay right here. And I'm just going to show one more option. You could put a block underneath your knees. And sometimes that lifts the knees enough that it increases the sensation without being too intense. So that's an option as well. I kind of like the deeper sensation, so I'm going to stay off of the block. We're almost done with minute 1. Stay with it if you can. We're going to go for minute 2. Remember, you can always just sit down on your knees. That's fine. Slow, smooth, deep breaths. It's really good to have ankle flexibility as well. So when we kind of overturn our ankle, if this tissue is really stuck, we're going to hurt ourselves more, right? But if it's flexible, we have to have that balance with wood element between being flexible and rigid, right? And that's going to help us not injure ourselves if we can keep that suppleness in the ankle joint. Say hello to Mr. Ziggy. Hi, Mr. Ziggs. All right, last breath here, guys. And after this, we're coming into a counter pose. So we're going to come up, and I'll probably go out of the screen for a moment because we're going to stand. We're going to come into dangle pose, which we have done already, but tonight we're going to add in a liver acupoint on the feet. So when you're ready, tuck your toes, lift your hips, have your feet a generous hips distance so that you feel very stable. And then find your big toe and your second toe. the bones right in between, you're gonna press with your thumbs right into the point between your big toe and your second toe. So that's a liver point. Now you might need to bend your knees in order to reach your toes. That's okay. And then when you find it, let the head drop as long as there's no untreated high blood pressure. If there is, you could stay up. It won't feel as yin-like. But if you can, fold completely over. We're gonna hold for 3 minutes here. So even though it's a counter to the ankle stretch, it's a pose in itself. Now we're only gonna hold the acupoint for the first minute. Long, deep breaths. We're also clearing the channel in the back of the neck here where those gallbladder points are when we let the head drop. Okay, slowly let go of the acupoint, and now you can just dangle down. If you want, you could hold opposite elbows, or you can let your arms drape on the earth. And we're gonna hold here for about another minute and a half. We're halfway there. One more minute. There's also some gallbladder points along, as Eileen said, along the sides of the head. So we're getting some blood flow to those areas as well. Let go of all effort in your face, your jaw, your upper body, your shoulders, and really allow yourself to hang. So I'm coming out just so I can more easily watch the timer here. You guys stay with it if you can. We've got just a few more breaths. And then after this pose, we're going to be getting more into some hip stuff and side body stuff. Last 2 breaths. Now, after your second breath, 2 choices. You can bend your knees and come right down to sit, or you can roll up first, or bring your hands to your hips and press up. And just come up to stand for a brief moment, and then we'll all come down to sit. So I'm gonna give you guys a moment to get there. Okay. So the next posture is called deer pose. I'm not really sure where the name of this comes from because it doesn't look like a deer. I guess you could think of it as like how a deer is on the forest floor, maybe how they look on the forest floor. So we're gonna have the legs in like these angles, okay? I have both my knees pointing off to one side. So I'm gonna do it as if I was mirroring you. So knees to the right side. And they're both on like 90-degree angles, kind of. This in itself can be challenging for some folks. If it is, you can stick a blanket underneath your hips, and that alleviates a little bit of the stuck energy that we might be feeling here in the legs. So depending on what our flexibility is like here in our hips, our knees, and our legs, we might need to sit up higher. You could also have a bolster underneath you if you wish. So we're going to take it to the next stage now with a little bit of a twist and a fold. So we're going to turn toward that right leg and then start to hinge forward over the right knee. And we're going to come down as much as you can. If you can go all the way, you'll go all the way. You could also put a block or a pillow or something under your forehead. But if you can, come all the way down. Now, if you want to go a little deeper, you could walk it a little bit toward the back, and then you get a deeper twist, and you'll feel it perhaps here in the side body. So that gallbladder channel is going through this whole side of the body. So by adding a deeper twist, we're going to have more sensation. So it's up to you if folding right over your knee is already pretty intense. You might not want to go to the twist, but if you could walk it over. And then we're going to hold here for 3 minutes. So settle in as you're ready. Come to your breath. And you might even see if you can direct the breath into that left side, especially if you're in that deeper twist. With every exhale, just allow yourself to kind of drop into the pose a little bit more. So allow the breath cycle to help you settle and deepen and release. So any of us that have been doing yoga for any length of time know that we do hold a lot of stagnant energy in our hips. In some of the yoga traditions, it's talked about, well, here we have the second chakra. We talked a lot about chakras tonight. So second chakra in yoga and Ayurveda relate to water elements. So that's interesting. But we get this stuckness in our hips, and it is often said that we hold repressed emotion in our hips. Some yogis say it's our junk drawer of our body. So wherever we don't want to deal with something, it gets stuffed and stuck in the hips. And a lot of that relates to the fact that our psoas muscle, which goes from our lumbar area around and connects into our inner thighs, is a muscle that reacts to stress. So when we're under a lot of stress, that psoas muscle will retract and pull us into low ball to protect ourselves, into a fetal position or into flexion in an effort to create protection and body armor for our vital organs. We're almost there, guys. Couple more breaths here. So that's one of the reasons why we end up having all this stuck energy in our hips, is because when we're under stress, that muscle is firing, wanting us to, prepare to flee or to fight, or it freezes us. So all those stress responses relating to what's going on in our hips. And also, we might feel like we can't move forward in life. So here's a little bit of that wood energy when we're in that stuck place in our hips. So that's the last breath there, guys. We're going to slowly start to come up. Take your time. And then bring yourself all the way around to the center. And then a little counter pose after that is just to do some windshield wipers. If you want, you might even feel better to take the legs out straight for a moment and just bounce them out, because this is still a bent knee position. If the knees feel like they need to be straightened out, then do that. Okay, now let's try the other side. So we're going to drop both knees over toward the left side now. And you might notice going to the right was easier, going to the left is harder. Here's that asymmetrical patterning that we might notice in our bodies. So just be aware of that. If that's the case for you, maybe it's not the case. And then we're going to turn toward that left knee and walk it out. Coming into a fold over that leg. You might feel it here in the outer hip as well, a gallbladder channel area. If you wish to deepen, take it into that twist by walking a little bit toward the wall behind you. And then not only are we getting hip, but we'll get a little bit of side body as well. So I will start the timer, and then we will stay there for our 3 minutes and breathe. And as you observe whether or not there are these asymmetrical patterns in the body, just notice that throughout the whole practice tonight. Like, are you feeling more of that stuck energy on one side versus the other? Allow the breath to help you settle into the pose. So I'm gonna give you guys some quiet time tonight. This is our last practice, and I think when we're first coming to yin, it's often helpful to be guided the whole time because we tend to get very distracted, or we want to get out of a pose, it's uncomfortable. But as we become a little bit more of a seasoned yinster, as Bernie Clark calls yin practitioners, yinsters, we can have some more down quiet time without a lot of guidance. So we'll take that last minute and a half here to just be silent. Less than 1 minute to go, stay with it. Okay, please take 2 more breaths where you are. And then after your second breath, remember very slowly coming out by slowly starting to walk your hands back, bring yourself back up to vertical, facing forward, and then your counter pose, either some windshield wipers or straighten your legs and give them a good wiggle, a little shake. So the next few poses, we're going to do a whole sequence on one side. So sometimes when we're beginning yin, we can just do one pose and then do it on the other side. But it's even more powerful and effective if we can string them together all on one side. And this one works particularly well to do about 4 or 5 poses in a row on one side. So we're going to start with Sleeping Swan. Sleeping Swan is a pose that we've done before, but I'm going to add a literal twist onto this pose to make it a little different and a little bit more into our gallbladder channel. So Sleeping Swan, if you remember, is the same as pigeon pose. And we're going to start with our, let's bring the right knee forward, and we'll do everything on the right. So you're going to bring right knee by your right wrist, and your left leg stretches straight back behind you. Now, if you remember, this is a pose that's often challenging on the knees, so we add in a prop if it is. We can add in a folded up blanket, pillow, block underneath the right sit bone, and that'll take some of the pressure out of the knee. If you don't need it, that's fine. If this is completely out of the range of motion for you, you're gonna do kind of a hybrid, and you're gonna bend that back knee almost like our deer pose. Just bend it enough that you can come forward, okay? Now those of you who are able to maintain it, keep that back leg straight. And then it comes into a twist in a moment. So we're gonna take 1 minute and settle in first to just the sleeping swan, and then we're gonna add the twist. So stay here, whether your head is up on a block or on your hands is up to you. And then nice, slow, deep breathing here, just 1 minute, and then we're gonna make it a little deeper if you wish. So you can always stay here. We're still getting some gallbladder channel around this leg and outer hip. The last time we did this pose, we were doing spleen stomach. So the spleen stomach runs more through the channel of the straight leg, where this gallbladder is more in the front in the bent leg. Okay, so now those of you who wish to take this another level, we're gonna get into the twist, which gets more into side bend. We're gonna take the left arm through like you're doing thread the needle. And here's where you might want a pillow or a blanket for under your head. I can get my head to the floor, but I'm gonna show it with a support, with a prop, because most people need that, okay? So you're gonna slide that arm through and then put your head onto your prop. And then here's where it can get even more interesting. We can take this top arm and wrap it around your back and just open up into the shoulder a little bit. And now we're gonna hold for 1 more minute in this position. You can always stay 1 more minute back where you were rather than taking this twist. It can be pretty deep. I want to give 1 more option. Those of you who can't get quite so deep could make it a little more yang by bringing your forearm onto the ground, and then you can twist this way and let your head drop. So if you can't get down all the way, you could still take a twist, but if all of that is not good, then just stay here. You're almost there, last few breaths. As best you can, once you find your pose, try not to fidget, try to stay in stillness. Okay, so that's our 2nd minute there. Once you learn to practice these on your own, you can stay as long as you like. We're gonna slowly come out. So bring yourself back through center first, but don't come out of the pose, just come back through center. And then we're gonna swing the back leg around and come into shoelace pose. So I'm gonna kind of spin around to the front so you can see me. So you're gonna take your back leg, swing it around, and we've done this one before where we stack up the legs on top of each other. But again, we're adding a variation that makes it a little more applicable to what we're doing tonight. So your knees are stacked. The feet are out to the sides. You could sit up on a prop if this bothers you. Already we're getting some outer hip stuff, but we're gonna add a side bend, which is going to increase the sensation of the side bend. So I'm gonna take, in this case, my left leg is on top, which is what you should have on top as well. So I'm gonna take my left arm and walk it out. Now, as soon as I do that, I might feel more sensation on this leg that's pinned down. If I want to stay there, I could stay there and maybe even let my head drop. get more neck. Or I could take my right arm and take it over the ear, okay? And then that gets all into this whole side body area, okay? And we're gonna hold back for our 3 minutes. So this one's gonna be a longer hold. Stay with it if you can. Some of you might be able to bring your forearm down. So I'm gonna show that as an option. You could have a block or a pillow and then put your forearm on the ground. You might even be able to reach the ground depending on the length of your arm bone. So it's not always how flexible we are. How long is my arm bone? So that's another option that makes it even deeper. So with yin, we want to approach it from where can we sustain the pose without fidgeting, without constantly thinking, get me the heck out of here, right? We want to be able to hold the pose, stay in it, and breathe and surrender. So I'll give you some more time now in silence. You might notice in some of these poses that heat can build up. This is that channel that Lee mentioned can get a little fiery. So we might notice that in some of these postures. We've got about 1 more minute. Try to let the arm just like dangle, not hold it up. Let it really drape. Yeah. Send the breath into that right side. I also like to make sure I've got weight back in my sit bone, so I'm not pitching forward so much. A little bit more even here. Last few breaths, we're almost there. All right, 2 more breaths. When you do come out, we're going to go very slowly. So first, if you have that top arm up, bring it down. Bring your head up a little bit, push into that bottom hand, and carefully come up to vertical. Take your time. Okay, so now we're moving into pose 3, which is called square pose. In a regular yoga class, you might have heard it called fire log. So we're going to start to stack the shins up on top of each other. So this one is another challenging pose. So my shins are like logs of a fire. They're stacked on top of each other, and my feet are flexed. So maybe I'll take my top sock off so you can kind of see that. I've been getting cold tonight. I like to widen my sit bones a little bit. So rock side to side so your sit bones feel grounded. This might be your pose. This could be intense. You can modify putting a block, a roll blanket, or a pillow under this top knee if it's feeling uncomfortable. Another option, guys, is to slide the foot more on your shin. So then it's not quite so intense, okay? If all of those options do not feel good, come into a cross leg position. Those of you who can, staying in square pose, and then you might add on a forward fold. So you can bring your hands in front of you, and then maybe drop your head. You could put a block down for your head if you wish. You could stack a few blocks up, make it a tower if you need to. And we're gonna do one more minute here since we've already been here maybe like a minute, and this one is quite intense. Breathe through it as best you can. Let the pelvis feel heavy. Remember to take those modifications if you need them. Last few breaths. All right, very slowly, starting to walk yourself back up if you took that forward fold. So there is a twist here as another option. I'm not going to do it tonight because it's pretty intense and we usually run out of time, but I just want to show you guys, you could come into a twist towards your top foot. You could slide that arm down and drop into it. So I just wanted to show you guys that in case you ever want to try it. If you're doing it on your own, that is another variation of that pose. Okay, so we're actually going to stay in it, so I hope you didn't come out of it yet. And we're going to recline onto the ground. So here again, this can be a little intense. So you might want to have a pillow behind you for your head. And as I come down, I'm going to ease down, and the legs, you might be able to see, are now off the ground a little bit, so it's not as much of that square pose where the legs are released all the way. It's going to depend on your body. Again, this is a little intense, so if you need to, you can do this version where you're just crossing ankle over knee, or you could do the shins crossed and come down, then my legs release more. But if you can tolerate it, do the square pose for 1 minute only. Because like I said, some of these are pretty intense. And you'll feel that weight dropping, and you'll feel that stimulation into those outer hip channels. Do your best to breathe through it. Only a few more breaths, you're almost there. And then we're going to repeat that whole sequence on the other side. So that would be all the poses. So it's sleeping swan, shoelace with a side bend, square pose, and then a reclined square pose. Okay, go ahead and now come out. Bring that foot flat. Bring both feet flat. And maybe a windshield wiper feels good. Maybe you want to kind of hug your knees in or take your legs up and circle your feet. So decide what might feel good. Have a moment of a counter pose there. And then we'll slowly start to roll to one side, and we'll start that whole sequence on the other side. Take your time. Okay, so starting with sleeping swan with the twist. Slide your left knee forward by your left wrist. Take your right leg straight back. Be on the top of that foot if you can. The hips are squared forward. Do add that support if you have any struggle in your knees here tonight. Or you can also bend this back knee a little bit, and that takes some of the pressure off the knee. If you can, the kneecap is facing the ground. We're going to do 1 minute First, in just a regular sleeping swan. Surrender all of your effort into the ground. Soften through your hips, your shoulders, your face. And have a sense of surrendering downward, that energy moving downward. Okay, so one more breath, and we're going to add on the twist for those of you who would like. So you can stay where you are for a second minute, or take that right arm and you're going to thread it through. Bring your head down either on your prop. Remember, you can have a blanket under your head or block, or your head can go to the ground. And then you can take the optional wrap if you wish. I'm going to set the timer again. And then staying here in this twisted sleeping swan. So I'm going to come out, it's easier to talk you through rather than facing away from the camera. So go ahead and stay there. Long, smooth breath. Directing breath anywhere where you feel restriction in your tissues. So those of you staying on for teacher training, we're going to have a little bit more in-depth discussion about fascia. If anyone wants to join in, you can let me know. But when the fascia is restricted, our chi doesn't flow through as well. There's a great book on the resource list called The Spark in the Machine, and I think the author is Daniel McKeown, and he talks a lot about how the chi is almost like an electrical force in the body. Go ahead, slowly come out, guys. Just come up through center. We're going to come into the shoelace. So walking yourself up, and then I'm going to turn to face forward. Swing that back leg around, stacking the legs up. So now my right leg is the top leg. Do sit up on a prop if you might need to. And then we're going to come into that side bend from here. So right hand comes out to the side. Slide it out any amount. And then this top arm, that might be enough, or take that top arm and let it drape over your ear. And remember, those of you who can might decide to come down onto your forearm. So that's an option. Let your head even drop if you like. This is going to be a 3-minute hold. So our yin yoga practice helps release this stuckness in our tissues, in our fascia. And research is showing that the more stress that we are under, the tissue, the connective tissue, starts to seize up. And it tightens and it stiffens in a reaction to stress or even illness, right? We know that when we get a flu bug, our body just feels achy and sore, and that tissue is just, we feel really tight in our bodies. So our yin yoga practice can really help release where that tissue is tightened and allow the chi, the prana, to flow more evenly. We also might notice, depending on what our habits are. We're right-handed, we might be more bound up on that right side. Or if we always hold a shoulder bag on one side, it's going to create an imbalance, more tightness on one side. If we've been in an accident, we've had an injury, or the other week I was hiking and I slipped on a really wet rock and I hit my side, and then that side was really bound up for a few days. So we can look at all these patterns in our lives and how they affect our tissues. Imagine here a fanning open of the tissue in the rib cage. Now I find as I hold this pose, I can go deeper, so I might be able to bring that forearm to the ground. So only if that feels good. You might do it if you want. I'm going to stay up on the block, but it's available. If you notice your body getting deeper and you want to go that route, go ahead. Last few breaths. Two more, please. After your second breath, take your time. We're going to release that top arm, carefully come up, and just pause. All right, coming into square pose on the other side. So now we're going to slide that top leg out and see if we can stack up our shins. Again, taking off that sock so you can see that top foot. Add in any props that you might want. Remember, you can slide this foot over a little bit, or you could come into cross leg, right leg in front. Square pose if it's tolerable. And then perhaps coming into a forward fold. So if you already feel like, whoa, that's pretty intense, you're going to stay with it and not fold. If it feels like it's available, you could walk it out any amount. A block might come underneath your forehead. Otherwise, just stay where you are until you find the pose, be still. Just 1 minute. You guys stay, and I'm coming out because my mat has shifted and I'm going to fix it. Last few breaths. Okay, so we're going to now start to slowly walk up if you took the forward fold. And we're going to come into the reclined square pose. So when you're ready, start to ease back. Remember, you can put a pillow under your head if you wish. The legs are going to be higher up away from the ground, but you're still going to let the weight drop. So we'll start the timer for 1 minute. You might notice some of these poses tonight. We're working gallbladder, liver. So notice for you, does frustration come up? Does anger come up as you hold these poses? And that's very possible because we're working with these emotions in these channels. Let your back body drop into the ground. Let the legs be heavy. Again, if this is too intense, you can also do any of the modifications I showed. Just cross your legs or ankle to knee pose as well. Last breath. All right, and then slowly start to come out, both feet flat. Settle for a moment, and then when you're ready, any counter pose that feels good. Windshield wipers, maybe take the legs up, circle the ankles, stretch the legs out straight is another one. Okay, so we're gonna roll all the way over to one side and come on up, and you guys can see the setup for the next set of poses. So we're gonna do a series of poses called frog and half frog. So you know like what a frog's leg looks like. So we're gonna do half frog first. So I'm gonna be on my belly. And I'm gonna slide my right knee out to the side. And my foot is turned out like a frog leg. And then all I'm gonna do is come right down, stack my hands up, and put my forehead on my hands. So not too bad. We're gonna hold this one for 3 minutes. It's pretty tolerable. Eventually we're gonna do full frog, which is both legs in this position. But I find it very helpful, those of you who are gonna teach this, I find it very helpful to do both sides half frog because it is more tolerable before you try to do a full frog. So we're getting a little bit of liver meridian on the inner leg, inner shin, inner thigh, up into the groin, and then a gallbladder a little bit here into the outer hip and outer leg. When we're about halfway through, I'm going to give you guys an option, those of you who might wish to deepen. Okay, so if you wish to deepen, it's going to be another one of those kind of thread the needle things. So my right knee is out to the side. I'm going to take my left arm through and then open up into a twist. And twisting always gets into these gallbladder channels on the side as well. So I'm opening into a twist. This top arm, I like to let it rest on my side ribs. You could also take it to the side if you want it all the way out. That's going to be more on the shoulder. But otherwise, just let it rest there. And we've got about less than a minute now to complete. And just really surrender the weight of your body into the ground. With every exhale, a dropping and a settling. And stay with the breath, particularly up here into this area of the ribs and the hips. Last few breaths. So got about 2 more breaths. All of these poses, if I were doing my own practice, I certainly would hold longer, but it would get us into like a 2-hour practice. So just know that you can hold these longer when you do them on your own. All right, let's slowly come out. We're going to turn back onto the belly. And then just slide this leg back and pause. Okay, and then when you're ready, let's go to the other side. So you're going to slide the left knee out. And with that knee about hip height, if you can make it. And then when you're ready, you'll just stay here. We're going to do about 1.5 minutes, and then we'll add in the twist if you like. So first, just settle into your half frog. again, notice if there's any asymmetrical stuff going on. So for me, I feel just a tiny bit more restriction on the inner thigh of my left leg versus the right. So just information that's sometimes good to note where we have these imbalances. All right, so we're about halfway there. So if you wish to take the twist, you would now slide your right arm through, roll open, and maybe rest your hand on your rib cage. So I'm coming out, I don't like to face away from you guys, but come into the twist if you like, otherwise stay in that half frog. Breathe into the area of the twist to bring some life into those tissues in and around the side body. I'm gonna grab some props while you guys finish out this pose so I can show you the full frog. Last few breaths. Let's take 2 more breaths. And then we're gonna come out after that second breath back to neutral. Rest on your belly. So you can come out of the twist, slide your leg back when you're ready. And we'll pause there for a few breaths. Now, as a counter, we're going to come back to a wide knee child's pose. So child's pose is tadpole in yin yoga. So come back to tadpole. Since we did a frog, we're going to do a tadpole. So take the knees nice and wide if you're comfortable, because that will access a little bit more of the inner leg, a little bit more liver channel. And we're going to take 1 minute in the counter pose of child's pose before we do frog. Let the exhales drop you deeper into the ground. Feel a release of energy downward. Last few breaths. Okay guys, slowly starting to come up out of your tadpole, and I'll show you the setup for our full frog. So I have a bolster. Now I know not everyone has a bolster at home. So what you could use is 2 stacked up bed pillows or 3 stacked up bed pillows depending on how firm they are, how thick they are. Sofa cushions also work well here. So if you don't have those things, take a moment and go grab them because it helps. You can do this pose without any props. I wouldn't recommend it the first time you do it, as the inner thighs are going to probably scream at you. But this is what it's going to look like. So I'm going to come with my body on the bolster, and I have a block here. You can also use a pillow of some sort, and I'm going to put my forehead on the block so that my nose is in between here and I still have space to breathe. And then we do the frog legs. Turn your feet out, turn your knees out. And to make this more intense, you might kind of shift yourself back off the block and let your hips hang down a bit more, but then your block might need to go up higher. You can also stay on the bolster a little bit more. If you feel like, oh, that doesn't feel like anything, I don't really get much stimulation to my tissue, you would come off of that bolster. And you could come all the way down onto your belly. Turn your feet out like frog feet, and then you can rest all the way down. So most people find that that's too much initially. So if that's you, then you want to definitely have those props underneath your body. So let's hold this one for a 3-minute count once you're in position. And we're getting liver channel, inner leg, gallbladder channel, outer leg, outer hips, and also a little bit into the ankles. Some classes I've taken yin have used this for Shavasana. I don't really like it when I'm flat down for Shavasana, but when I'm up on the props, I can tolerate it. And it's a nice Shavasana to have belly down. It feels very safe, very grounded. So that's a thought if you ever want to do a face down Shavasana. We're going to have a regular Shavasana yet too, but just throwing that out there as a thought. Another way to make this more intense is to kind of move your booty back a little bit. So if I come forward, there's less intensity in my hips. If I move my booty back a little bit, it becomes a little more intense. So that's another option if you're not feeling much and you want to move back. We're over halfway there, a little bit longer. Last few breaths. Now we're not coming out just yet, but when we do, you're going to have two options. You can bring your feet together and come back to another tadpole in a wide knee child's, or you can rest flat on your belly in a crocodile pose. Okay, so when you're ready, press up and either come to a child's with your knees wide, tadpole, or if you want to get out of this open knee position, you've had enough of that, then just come right down, flat on your belly, and you might try turning your feet out. So that's a true crocodile pose. Feet are turned out, but for some of us, that's too much. So we go feet flat. Okay? 1 minute in the counter pose. We're right on time tonight. Stay with that for a few more breaths, and after this, we're gonna just do our couple finishing things on our back before Shavasana. Try to let go completely and not hold anything up. Let's release. Last breath, wherever you are. And then slowly, slowly exiting the pose. Take your time. We are going to come on our backs now. So you might want to have a blanket in front of your head. However, it's a chilly night. So if you have found that you got cold in your practice, you're going to want to use a blanket to cover up. So I always keep one down on my mat too. So you can always crawl under the one that's on your mat. It'll be nice and warm underneath. But not yet. So first let's come down, keep anything nearby you want for Shavasana. Layer up if you want to put a jacket on or something. Let's take a happy baby. Bring those knees in. And then take the legs up. You can hold the backs of your legs, hold your ankles, hold your feet. Of course, yin yoga, we call it stirrup pose. I'm just gonna stick with happy baby. And then I like to keep it more chill. So I wanna be able to keep my shoulders relaxed, my arms relaxed. If I go here, I feel like I've gotta reach to get it because my arms are short. So for me, for this one, in a regular hatha, I'd go for it. But for yin, I like to keep it more chill. So let's hold for a minute in our happy baby. And this is also just a nice low back releaser after any practice, which is why we often do this at the end of regular yoga practice. But it's also nice to do at the end of yin. Another version of this is let the feet drop and hold the ankles down. To me, that's a nice one too because it's a little more passive and I'm just holding on to the ankles. So totally your choice, whichever one you like. All right, so let's now release that, bring the knees in, one more hug. And then we can set those feet down flat on the ground and stretch the legs out one at a time. If you feel any strain in your lower back, you could wiggle the legs out, bounce them out. Maybe support the backs of your knees with a roll blanket or a pillow. That will also relax the low back. Cover up if you've gotten chilly, and then you can rest in your Shavasana. So I'm going to come out, and you guys stay there once you're settled. So really dropping in here to the ground, letting go of any remaining effort in your body. Let the head be super heavy. And imagine the back of the skull soft and just very receptive, like it's opening the back of the skull as you drop it into the ground. So relaxing that area that we started with in those gallbladder channels in the back of the neck. Can you soften there? When you soften there, see if you can feel a reciprocal softening of the eyes. So those of us who tend to be kind of either the wood or the fire can have that intensity in our eyes. So let the eyes be very soft. Like they're filled like a gel. So really let the eyes relax, soften all the little muscles around the eyes. As we mentioned, the liver channel relating to the eyes. Imagine that the eyes could just drop deeper in toward your skull. And that inner gaze is very soft. So even when our eyes are closed, we might feel an intensity in the eyes. So let there be a softness in the eyes. Sometimes, yeah, an eye bag, eye covering can help facilitate that softening of the eyes. When there's light shining in our eyes, it can be hard to relax the eyes. So feel free to cover your eyes. And then relax along the sides of the temples, on the sides of the eyes, soften there. And bring your awareness to the channel that runs above the ear, over the ear, and down the back of the ear. And soften there. Gallbladder channels. Relaxing down the sides of your neck. And down into the sides of your ribs. And let your rib cage melt into the ground. Relax down through the sides of your hips, down through the sides of your legs, through the ankles, and relax your feet. And then rest your awareness on that point between your big toe and your second toe. See if you can hold your attention there on that liver point in the feet. So this is liver 3, Tai Chang, that you're focusing on. So pressing this point or bringing awareness to this point can be helpful if you've been feeling tense or stressed. And then finally, let go of that awareness to that point and have a sense of your overall being resting on the ground, your whole back body heavy into the ground. And the whole front body, soft, open, receptive. Imagining that in this receptive state, the qi can flow through the body unimpeded. Imagine you've released all blockages in your tissues. Imagine that that qi flows through you like an electrical impulse through your whole body, creating health and well-being, calmness in the mind, calmness in the body. All right, so we're gonna start to come to a close. So first, just feel your body on the ground once again. Notice how you feel. And as liver energy is related to spring, it's like a reawakening. So start to reawaken your physical body. Deepen your breath a bit. Start to move gently at first. And then following your body and mind intuition, is there a movement that would feel good to help you reawaken? Perhaps a stretch or a knee hug. Take your time and move any way that you would like before coming over to one side. So you're choosing whichever side you wish to be on. And then when you're ready, we'll come up to a seated position. Let your hands rest down for a moment. Close your eyes or find a soft gazing point. We'll just take a moment to sit for a minute or so. Imagine the sit bones like roots of that tree growing downward into the earth. And then the spine like the trunk of the tree rising toward the heavens, toward the sky. And then imagine the skull opening up, spacious, receptive toward the sky, as if branches could grow out and reach upward to touch the sky. So you are both rooted into the ground and reaching and expanding upward. Relax across the forehead, especially right between the eyes. Soften the corners of your eyes. The gallbladder point right in the corners, outer corners of the eyes. Whether your eyes are open or closed, let them be soft again, as if you were taking in a wide angle view, whether the eyes are open or closed. So rather than be very focused and narrow vision, let it be soft and open. And let the tongue relax in your mouth. With the eyes, with that soft, open, focused, closed or open, let them be soft. All of the muscles around the eyes soft. All right, and then from here, let's bring the hands together in front of your heart space. Have a deep breath in, allow the heart to lift, and as you exhale, bow your head to meet your heart. All right, thank you everyone. Namaste. All right, thank you guys for coming, joining me. This has been a lot of fun. I will be seeing teacher trainees again soon. And the rest of you, maybe you'll join us for one of our other upcoming events. Great.
Thank you, Dee.
Thank you.
Eileen.
Thank you so much. Have a great night, everybody. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Eileen. Any questions, anybody? All right, signing off.